So we've started tackling the chassis wiring. Relay box that comes off the switch here, it's all activated by the isolator here, goes up to the relay. Once the power from the switch from the purple wire comes out, goes to the relay, then gives power to the other relay box. Power comes out, powers a couple of things. So far we've just got the indicator wiring done, so both of these now work off how they should work with the indicator, and so does the ignition. All the ignition works. This looks like this just now, but so we've done a couple of bits in here. We've added a new fuse box that works off of ignition 2, and then obviously the relay box that works off of ignition 1. Light switch and everything's in. We've managed to run all the cables from the rear, which are just mocked up at the moment. I'll put this in a proper connector soon, but obviously these all go to here, all labeled up and everything works. The only thing that's not set up in it yet is, obviously I put some bungs in here. That's actually just vacuum line that I've cut and then sliced and then wrapped it around. So I'll put some 2-pack glue in there to make sure it doesn't fall out. It stops it from rubbing. Same back here. That's the kind of idea behind it. Doesn't look great when you look up close. I mean, if I did it a bit tighter, it would come okay, but for now, that'll work fine. I've plumbed in the fuel pump, just give ground straight to the chassis, and then run it up to ignition 2. Inside here, the light switch works. So obviously there's another loom that runs along here that comes off of this, because this is just literally like a normal switch. You just need the pin out for it. Same with this. So this obviously works off of, you've got ignition 1, ignition 2, oh no, sorry, ignition 1, ignition 2, and then starter. But again, that just runs off of the side bit here. It's all just, oh, where's my finger? There. All just runs off of switches. I've relocated my isolator to here. I did initially have it in here, that's why there's a hole, but I didn't realize there was a bar so close, so clearance doesn't allow it. So this now lives like that. So that should be ample enough. We've just designed a blank for there, so obviously there's no dash in here just now. For this car, I won't need a dash. I'm going digital dash, so there is a blank to go in there. For this, I've 3D printed. There's a vent bit that goes in here that has pod gauges on it, and then the radio delete plate. For down here, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with it yet. I don't even know if I'll run this panel. I just need to relocate this and move these switches. If I'm going to do that, I'll probably put them in where the blank is. So yeah, we're making good progress. We're actually making such good progress that the K20 motor itself is pretty much fully assembled. So we've also got the K-Power cast intake manifold, T7 designs, basically everything. So T7 design, fuel rail, T7 design, the bit for the AN16s. Same with the oil drain, that's T7 design. There's more T7 design down there. These are 625 inch mounts, as shown here. They just work really well. That's what I ran on my last one. I have a plate coming, which will delete this. So I've run into, I can't even put my pinky in between the manifold and the oil filter. That's no use. I could heat wrap it, but I'd rather just not do that. So what we're gonna do instead is so this plate will get deleted. I have a whole oil cooler system with a fan and everything. It's a 23 row. So the cooler gets taken off. This and this get converted to AN, I think it's AN10 if I remember correctly. That will go to the coolant port in the turbo, since it needs 2 in that. And then here, the sandwich plate will come off because that was just to mock it up. So it's not gonna work. So we've got a oil filter relocation. So it bolts into there, actually takes a filter down here. So the filter will now live 90 degrees down this way. And then we'll put the oil cooler in here. That'll run AN10 over to this chassis leg over here, and then into the cooler, and then back into the system. So that's how we're gonna get around that issue. For clearance, it doesn't seem to be that we're going to need much more else. There's ample room between that and there. When it goes into the car, obviously that's the exhaust side of the turbo, and that's the wastegate. So we'll probably just run the wastegate over to about here. Downpipe will come over here. Wastegate will just kind of turn up into it, and that'll dump the gases. Obviously, when this goes back in, I've got a slimline one to go in, so that should give ample room there. Yeah, so Walton manifold. This is a Pulsar 4849G, which is basically a G25 550 Garrett turbo. It's based off of that, and it works basically the exact same. Obviously, it has the T51 mod. It's a double ball bearing, so I'm hoping to get a good spool out of that. Mixed with the upgraded amount of volume in the plenum, I should be expecting decent response times. B series Honda intake, throttle body, sorry, because it doesn't have the map sensor or the idle air control valve built into it, which means you get the B to K adapter for the TPS sensor, and then that's an Acuity or however you want to call it. Throttle position sensor, then the Honda a 4-bar map sensor, which goes onto the actual intake, and then underneath, that's where your idle air control valve would normally live, but I blank it off because I don't need it. This is obviously for the brake booster, which is perfect because that exactly lines up where the brake booster would normally be in the E36. So that's totally fine. As for down here, it's pretty bare. Obviously, I've got the heater core blanked off because I don't need it. Same with the other side here. That's blanked off. That's a K-tuned blank, has like the bleed nipple in it. Or if you want, you could run, it's 1/8 NPT, so you could run pretty much anything you wanted in there. Pressure sensor, temperature sensor. K20s already have a temperature sensor built into them. Yeah, so the temperature sensor is actually in the back of the head. Obviously, that's not the back of the head. For Honda guys, that would be to the right side. But to us, that's the back of the head, so it lives in there. That's your temperature sensor for your coolant, and then your 2 cam sensors there. As for underneath here, again, nothing down here. It's all pretty bare. Just got the mount on there. Yeah, obviously we know about the relocation. As for here, you can still run the standard K20A2 pulley system. It all fits very well. Plenty of clearance. I mean, none of these parts move, so it doesn't really matter, but yeah, I've studded it just to stop it from backing out. But yeah, new water pump on, and then I've got a new pulley coming for this, and that one's been painted, so probably won't bother changing it. It's the PRB water pump housing that I'm using, because that's just what comes standard on the K20A2s, and majority of swaps make you run this water pump housing anyway. Obviously, again, that's the heater core blank. That's from T7 Designs. You can probably see it on there. Don't know how well you can see it. With the I think it's a 78 degrees thermostatic T7 Design thermostat output. Again, I can run some form of switch in there. I think it's your radiator fan switch. I just blank it off. My radiator runs all the time anyway. My fan, sorry. Knock sensor lives in its standard location, obviously, and then that's just the thermostat bypass hose that goes from there to there. So we actually run this in reverse flow. So normally this would go to your top radiator hose, and that would go to your bottom radiator hose, that one down there. We do it in reverse, so that one goes to the bottom radiator hose down here, and then this one comes from there round up into the top one. We found that to be more effective. Obviously, we've still got a PMC adapter plate to go on here. It's not that big of a deal. It's really simple to do. Literally bolt on the plate with all the hardware that comes provided. Take out the pilot bearing with a bit of bread. And then put the new flywheel on, because the pilot bearing is part of the flywheel. Then that all kind of sits. You use the standard Honda flywheel bolts. Obviously not a good idea to reuse them, so buy new ones if you can. Red Loctite for anything that spins. And then clutch and flywheel that goes on. I've got a paddle clutch to go on this thing. So yeah, and then that's pretty much everything. So once this is kind of done and kind of figure out where it's all going to go, it should look pretty good, and we should have plenty of room for inside here. Obviously all my wiring's still done. I just need to figure out which hole the charge harness is going to go through. I think I'm just going to have to extend this one and make that a little bit bigger and run it through there. It's probably going to be the easiest bet. I could obviously put a hole in the blanking plate, or I could run it through where the ECU goes, but that's already pretty tight in there with all the relays and everything, so it's probably not a good idea to put it through there. This has a 4-pot throttle cable. The only problem with the 4-pot throttle cables, if you're a Beamer guy, is you'll know that they have a curve, a hard curve in it, whereas the 6-pot ones are straight. So in terms of getting it onto this, you're probably going to be better with a 6-pot one. I think the 4-pot ones are slightly longer. I've not had an issue running the 6-pot throttle cable on my last one, so I'll just swap that one out. And then this is built for an E30 because they don't have an E36 version, but more or less the same applies. On the last one, we had to do the same thing. So you just get a grub screw. You cut off the original one, which is this one here, because obviously the way that it's knotted there won't work on the other intake. So you just cut this off, run it through a grub screw, and then that's your new end. It gets rid of this, and it means you don't have to try and hide that. Something just went absolutely flying there. Oh, it was the throttle cable. So yeah, just slowly but surely building it up. Got 1000cc injectors in it. The E14s, that's just the pigtail adapter. If it'll come off, I can't remember how it goes on. Yeah, like that. So it literally just plugs straight in to your standard EV14, and then that just converts it to the K20 plug. So again, keeping it nice and simple, less chopping of the loom to do. I did it on my last one. It's not the end of the world. It's just 8 wires and then solder them up. But if you can get away with not doing it, obviously it'll look a lot cleaner. For fuel rail, obviously I've got a 180 that's going to come probably around here. I don't think I'm going to have enough room to do it here. I would have liked to have put it along here and tidied it up so you barely see anything, but I think I'm just going to 180 it here and try and tuck it along underneath and just try and keep it nice and simple. So that's as far as we're up to on the build so far. It's moving pretty fastly, so hopefully have this engine in and running by the end of the week. Yeah, happy days.